So today we have John here with us, and he has been teaching in Spain for what is it? It's been a year now, and you're just signing on for another year. Is that correct?
Not quite a year. I've been working since January. But yeah, now we've just renewed and I'll be here at least until December, but it's going very well. I think if all goes well, I continue next year too.
Right. Okay. And so where are you
Mm.
based in Spain?
In Barcelona.
Nice. Very
Mm.
nice. How do you like it over there?
It's very cool. It's very cool. I think I did a good job choosing a city that is by the coast, although some of the nicer beaches are just outside of town, but they're very accessible. You got nice train routes that go there. And yeah, the summer here so far has been really epic. I can't I
Nice.
can't lie about that. Yeah.
So you just signing up for another year. So did you have to go through a process of renewing your visa?
Yeah, right. Because I came through Explore on like kind of like a study work exchange.
Hmm.
So I came on a student visa. So while I've been teaching, it's been under sort of student visa conditions. So
Right.
with like basically a limit on how many hours I can work. And so we've just renewed that because I enjoyed the studying anyway.
Cool. So
Yeah.
how was renewing that visa? Was it a fairly easy process?
Um, yeah, yeah, I believe there were definitely fewer documents involved than when we originally did it. So renewing, yeah, is easier than when you originally would apply for it from your home country.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it wasn't too tricky. And in fact, I just heard the news like last week that it's been accepted as well. So it's pretty soon I'll go um into the police station here and like do my fingerprints again and yeah, and get my updated ID card.
Oh, nice. Oh, so you have to. I've never heard that before. You have to go to the police station and check in with them and do some stuff.
Yeah, in yeah, like in here, that's sort of where your social like many of the social services are done, like your immigration stuff or your whatever is kind of handled at the police station. Yeah.
How was the process? So that's been the process right now. How was your process initially when you were first coming out, getting the visa and all that stuff set up?
So that then we did from South Africa.
Hmm.
Um, the the Spanish bureaucracy in general is known to be quite well strict, or you could say like their requirements are quite thorough. So
Hmm.
you do need to prepare like quite a lot of documentation. But if you the nice thing is like Explore did make everything very clear
Mm.
how we need to do everything, and precisely what the documentation should provide. And yeah, we followed that, and there wasn't an issue.
Okay. Oh, that's really
Yeah,
great to hear. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about why you decided to start teaching in general? Like what was the big move for you? Like what's your story behind wanting to come over to Spain and teach abroad?
Oh, that's a cool question, man. I should I should tell well, yeah, I should tell the complete truth because it's the most interesting version of the
Please.
story. So, yeah, not last year, but in fact the year before, I met this girl from Belgium who was on exchange. She was doing a study exchange herself in South Africa. And then we sort of had a romance, and then but then she shortly afterwards had to leave. And I was sort of at the point in my life where I wanted to travel anyway. I was aware of uh, teaching English abroad as an option. Like I'd heard of many people doing it. And I thought, okay, well, let's see, since this girl's going back home to Europe,
Hmm.
let's see if I can kind of kill two birds with one stone,
Yep.
be be kind of close to her and also do this travel and teach English thing. To me, it didn't really matter at the time where I go. So therefore, I chose the one that would give me some kind of proximity with this girl,
Hmm.
which 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 is like not a which shouldn't be how you make decisions, but anyway, it turned out great. It turned out great.
Yeah.
So so anyway, I end up here. By the time I got here, the process was complete, and by the time I was here involved in the program, that romance had like died anyway. So like, well, um, but yeah, I ended up here, and um, it was yeah probably one of the best decisions I ever made. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, and how incredible that is that you decided to go to, kind of follow this girl, right? And that ended up not working out, but in the midst of doing that, you completely found something that really mattered to you, it sounds like.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And why I chose teaching, I mean, there are loads of ways to travel. You don't
Hmm.
have to teach, and there are loads of ways to work and travel. Um, but why I chose teaching as well is I was kind of I wanted to explore more more social environments at work because
Right.
I felt that it would suit me more. So I wanted to kind of experiment with that, dip my toes there, and see if it suits me. And yeah, it really suits me.
Sure. So obviously, like what you were saying, initially, maybe you didn't care too much about where you were going, or even
Mm,
maybe some of like the details about like what you were going to be doing, or so you were, the focus was obviously on that romance. So when was kind of the change to when you started focusing like, oh, maybe this is something that I was really meant to do, and kind of means a lot to me. When did that
yeah.
switch happen?
Right. Well, it wasn't really all about the romance. It was just a
Yeah.
strong motivator at the time. Like I wanted to travel and teach anyway. Um, but yeah, in the beginning, while I was finding kind of getting my footing here, I didn't really know how I was going to feel. You're just kind of trying to keep afloat
Yeah.
and settle yourself. But yeah, it didn't take long after starting working where I realized like, man, teaching is loads of fun, and I think I'm well suited for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe I would say like 2 months into the job, I started feeling quite well settled
Yeah. Oh,
and really really confident.
yeah. So what are some moments that that you felt like maybe I'm really settled here now? Like what were some standout moments that you felt like, I don't, and maybe you still think about going back home to South Africa, but what were some moments where you felt like I think I really want to be here, and I think I want to stay kind of
Mm,
long term?
yeah. Uh, I could say there are moments at work where I feel that way, but the moments where you most feel that are social experiences with the friends that you've made here. So yeah, in fact, like I journal. So sometimes I don't journal every day, but sometimes I'll write something. So I think I had an entry. I mean, this was a few months ago then, but yeah, I had an entry which was like um, we had gone to the park to have a picnic, just my friends and I,
Mhm.
and yeah, just being there at the park, hanging out with everyone, uh, really felt like I had family and I sort of had a community, and it's totally true. I've made some very very good friends here. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, that's really good to hear, because I think, and maybe you can attest this same feeling as well, but I think a lot of people, when they're in those initial stages of trying to decide if they want to go abroad or they are going abroad, one of the biggest fears sometimes is, am I going to be able to make any friends, right? I think a lot of people
yeah.
think like that. So, did it sounds like it came fairly natural and to you when you arrived there. Do you want to talk about like meeting some friends a little bit, and how that's grown into the community that you have now?
Yeah, I will say I think there's a lot to say there. I think something you have to know is like you can't expect to feel as surrounded by love and comforts as you did at home. Like
Hmm.
you just won't because you're kind of socially starting from scratch because you don't know anybody here.
Right.
Um, so like look, there'll be times and it might even take a few months for you to really feel like I'm settling. I've got people.
Hmm.
Um, but all I can say is like if you go in with a good attitude and you know that and you sort of expect like to deal with a bit of that and you're just kind of prepared for it like emotionally and you've got the right attitude, I don't I think it's just a matter of time.
Right.
The longer you are in a place, the more people you meet, the more people you meet that you like, and the more friends you make. That's just how it goes.
I think some people kind of think, especially when you get out of school and you kind of get into like your the workforce and stuff, you start to think like, how do I make friends when I'm not completely surrounded by my peers all the time, right?
Mm,
So is there
yes.
like something that you did to, go out of your way to make friends, or what was that experience like?
So I was pretty fortunate with the job that I got. Basically, we have a really big team of a lot of teachers, and all of them are pretty young.
Okay.
So I was kind of like around my age, like in
Mhm.
their 20s, like a few here and there who'd be in their 30s. But I think that helps a lot. And obviously, because where you work is where you're social a lot as well, it's natural that like those people would become your friends. If they can become your friends, they will become your friends, right?
Yeah.
Um, but also in class, like because I did my Spanish studies as well. In class, made some nice friends there. Although the best friends that I made have been from work. Yeah,
Great.
yeah. So I was fortunate where I didn't really have to fight too hard.
Hmm.
I kind of had an environment that naturally uh, like fueled new friendships, which is really nice. Um, but it's really difficult. It's really difficult if you're not meeting people at work or at school. Um, I think that's kind of like part of the adult experience in life, and I think
Right.
it's like a struggle worldwide.
Hmm.
Um, like if you don't like anyone from work, or you're not making any friends at work after school, and that's rough. That's why for many people, like deep into their adulthood, their
Hmm.
best friends are still from university.
Yeah.
If you didn't move to a new city after school or something like that, it's very tough. What I can say is like you need to be, I suppose, uh, it seems obvious, but yeah, you need to be open to meeting new people, to like going somewhere alone and talking to strangers, and yeah,
Yeah.
if you have that attitude, like you'll make friends, absolutely.
What you're saying too is, going the natural route and being able to make friends through the things you're already doing in your life is, if you
Mm,
can do that, that's a huge bonus, right? That just means everything's
mm,
lining up perfectly. And I think outside of that, like you're saying, if you don't like the people at work or in your Spanish class or whatever, like sometimes you have to then I think force yourself to like go out and get involved in an activity, right? Or like
right, yeah.
find some type of community where you're going to meet new people, because you're not just going to run into your best friend on the street. I mean, you might, but that doesn't often happen, right?
Yeah, but you need to try,
Yeah.
because you now will find yourself in a situation where like you don't really know anybody,
Hmm.
and you need to try and meet people.
How did you feel when you first arrived versus like kind of how do you feel now?
Oh man, when I first arrived, I don't think I was really connecting with local community much at all,
Okay.
because well, when I first arrived, I couldn't speak Spanish.
Hmm.
Um, so I feel really, really fortunate that I've been able to study so much Spanish, and now I'm at like a really fairly high conversational level, and it's now at the point where like I have local friends. I'm not only friends with other foreign people, and but yeah, like coming to Spain, where English is not like it's not an official language here. It's not really spoken except by, some Spanish people who are really well educated, or by other foreigners. Um, yeah, it's harder then, obviously, much harder to connect with local people. But
Hmm.
the thing about a city like Barcelona is it is so international and global that like you'll there'll be people for you to connect with anyway, because
Yeah.
there are so many people who do speak English,
Right.
and who do come from somewhere else.
And do you feel like your slow build to feeling connected and kind of interested in liking the culture and stuff? Do you think that was heavily based on your Spanish ability? Like you were,
Huge.
oh, okay, okay.
I think it's huge. Um, you know, like before in my home country, um, I I was always the type of guy to be super open socially, like striking up conversation with strangers
Mhm.
and like just meeting people like constantly.
Yeah.
And when you can't speak the language, that's just like you can't do that. So,
Mhm.
and it's something that I was super aware of. I was like, that's why I took my Spanish studies so seriously, because I knew like this is going to be, if anything, this is going to be my biggest barrier to feeling at home here, is not speaking this language. Um, yeah, so I worked really hard on it, and I'm
Mhm.
still working really hard on it.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think it goes like a very long way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You kind of hear this all the time, and Japan is very similar. Like you can go to that country and enjoy it quite a bit by not knowing any of the language, right? But when you
Mm,
start to really learn the language, that will open up so many more doors for you, right? Like you really get to
mm.
experience what it's like to live there and the culture and meeting people once you engage in that way, right?
Yes, totally.
In the news and
Yeah.
stuff, you see a lot right now, and you hear a lot, specifically in Spain, you know,
Mm,
the kind of, I don't know, maybe you could touch on it a little bit more, but maybe the negativity towards tourism or foreigners coming over. Do you know much about that? Have you experienced anything in regards to that? How often do you see stuff like that?
yeah. So yes, I can absolutely talk about it, and I think it's very interesting. One
Mhm.
thing I'll say is, while there is a presence of like anti-tourism sentiment in
Mhm.
the city, it doesn't not exist. It is obviously because it's a spicy story. It's
Mhm.
inflated by the media. It's
Sure.
not really like you're not in any danger if you're a tourist here. No one's gonna attack you. No one's like no one's really gonna bother you. Um, it's 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 not that serious. It's kind of a media thing, but at the same time, it doesn't not exist.
Right.
So there, like for me, my experience, because at least like physically,
Mhm.
while I don't look Spanish, I don't look um super I don't look loudly foreign, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. Sure.
Um so like I might not be the best person or the person who would have the deepest experience of it. But yeah, it happens. I think I have had it one time where in a restaurant I was with a bunch of English speaking friends. We were laughing, speaking maybe kind of loudly, but just enjoying ourselves, not being
Mhm.
uh not trying to be a disturbance or anything.
Right.
And then like these guys at the table across from us kind of like tried to like shush us or whatever. And I mean, who knows for sure, but we kind of got the feeling like maybe if we'd been speaking Spanish or Catalan, they
Right.
wouldn't have taken any issue with it. So you feel a little bit of that. I have a friend who's from Ireland who
Mhm.
looks, he's got like the whitest, reddest
Mhm.
skin. He's got the blondest hair, the bluest eyes. Um, he's happy. He doesn't complain about it, but um, I've just heard that like people are a little bit less polite with him.
Yeah.
Uh, so so yeah, I mean, that's all I can say about it is I can say yes, it exists, but at the same time, I if I wanted to come here, I would not. I would if you wanted to come here, I would tell you don't let that deter you from
Yeah.
coming here in any way. I mean, like it's a loud minority, like I said, like it does exist, but most people don't have an issue with tourists.
Yeah.
It's it in Barcelona, it's a very hot topic because I don't know, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've been hearing it that Barcelona now is the second most visited city in Europe after Paris,
Wow.
which is huge. But
Yeah.
but yeah, like it's a lot. It does receive a lot of tourism,
Mhm.
so yeah, therefore it makes sense that here it's kind of a big topic. But the people that I engage with, including like the locals that I know here and speak with, they're reasonable people. They're they like there might be some things about tourism that they don't like, but they understand that it's the tourists are not the issue. It's more a government issue or a policy issue.
Yeah,
You know, it's not like they don't blame the tourists for coming here. It's a great place. Of course, they want to come visit.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have you personally experienced, since there's been such an increase in tourism, have you experienced any like inflation in prices or anything like that? Maybe in terms of like rent, or is it pretty much the same as far as you know?
Well, I've been here for 8 months. Maybe I haven't been here long enough to see the change myself, but it's known that things have become a lot more expensive here very quickly. I
Mhm.
think I don't want to like pull numbers out of nothing, but I read some statistic that in the past 3 years, rent prices have increased like tremendously.
Wow.
Um, and and yeah, the locals report the same thing. Uh, the people that I know and that I speak with,
Mhm.
it's yeah, the city. Well, basically back in I think it was the year 1992,
Yeah.
Barcelona hosted the Olympics, and before that, it not that it was an undeveloped city or whatever, but Barcelona before 1992 was not this sort of like global, super well known like a destination. It wasn't a destination
Right.
before the 90s, but the government invested a ton into developing the city, bringing it up for the 1992 Olympics, and I think since then it's been like soaring in popularity.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
And of
That's
course, like the football team, I think the football club has done loads to contribute to that as well. Like
mm,
had like a really really strong era in the 90s, and then carried on through the 2000s. Messi, all of
sure.
that.
Yeah. How is your cost of living? And how is maybe just your overall lifestyle changed from living in South Africa to living in Barcelona?
Right. So South Africa, considering it's certainly more of a developing country, the
Mhm.
cost of living is considerably lower. Although the city that I lived in, Cape Town in South Africa, has some expensive rent too. The rent here is not much worse than Cape Town,
Okay.
but I suppose that's because Cape Town is also kind of like an international city or an international standard
Right.
city that gets a fair amount of tourism as well. Um, but yeah, otherwise, uh, I live pretty well. I'm not pinching too much, not pinching my pennies too much. Um, because I am on a student visa and here on the student program and working part-time, I don't earn enough to be self-sufficient. So
Okay.
that's an important thing to recognize.
Mhm.
I'm still supported by my parents. Like obviously I get my salary, um, but yeah, I'm still getting help from my family. I think it would be really tough to live here and completely be self-sufficient if you were working on part-time hours.
I
I
see.
think I don't think it's possible.
Right. And so considering that, are you trying to move? Obviously, you just applied for your new visa in the same category, but are you
Mhm.
kind of looking more towards the future and thinking that you would like to find with something that you can do full time?
Yes, yes. So that is something I'm considering now and looking into. It's okay until the end of this year. In December, I'm on a student visa, and that's cool with me because I want to, I'm going to go back to class in October anyway. So it wouldn't make sense for me to try to get on a full-time uh, contract now because, yeah, well, this year for me is about developing my Spanish as much as possible. But then what I'm looking towards for next year is then when I look to renew again, or I suppose when this visa
Mhm.
expires, I'm going to speak with the company and also with Explore about um, what we can do to organize like a real working visa, which would allow me to reside here and work here full time. And then if I were working here full time, then it would be okay.
Yeah.
Then then I'd be able to afford a life here.
obviously you're quite busy with both the part-time job and the Spanish classes, but do you feel like your um quality of life has changed at all? Not necessarily that you had a bad one in South Africa, but have you noticed a change in your quality of life?
Yes, yeah, good question. Um, Look, South Africa is a very, very special country. It's my home. But it has to be said that South Africa has some issues,
Mm,
um, like economic issues, also security issues. Um, I've enjoyed so much just like the freedom of walking around South Africa as a country. I mean, I don't know how much you know, but I'll I'll, I'll say it anyway.
yeah.
It's not the norm, for example, in many first world countries and many first world cities to walk around with with your sorry, it is the norm in those cities and in the first world to walk around with your phone out and kind of whatever, be looking at your GPS, be
Hmm.
calling someone, texting someone, and it's typically no issue. Like maybe there are some sketchy parts of the city where you shouldn't, but in general, in most of the city, it's okay. In South Africa, that's like if you're in the city, that's like a big no-no. You wouldn't do that. And if you do have to use your phone, you're like your head like your head
Hmm.
is on a what would you say
A
on a
swivel.
pivot or whatever,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
swivel, yeah. So like you're constantly looking around, making sure it's safe if you are doing something on your phone. And yeah, it's I didn't realize how much of an emotional strain that really is. So
Hmm.
that's something that I've appreciated greatly, just not having that um on my mind. That being said, Barcelona has its parts where you shouldn't do that for sure, but in most parts that's no issue and it's totally normal. Otherwise, like the public transport, South Africa has a really low level of development with public transport. Here, it's fantastic.
Hmm.
It's uh, something that I really like as well. I don't miss driving.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean the food is really good here. I do think South Africa has some good food too. Oh yeah, one thing is I've lost a considerable amount of weight since I
Oh,
moved here, and I
nice.
think it's a combination of things. I think it's like I'm quite busy,
Yeah,
so I have less time to eat, but also um food is a little bit more expensive, so I'm probably not buying and eating as much food as I was.
sure.
Look, I'm not starving myself. I'm completely fine. But but yeah, like I've lost some weight just probably from the price being different, from me being busier, and also I think from all the walking that I do
Hmm.
because now I walk everywhere, whereas in South Africa you would drive everywhere.
Right.
Like there are amazing spots to go on hikes and stuff where you can get active and do your thing in South Africa, but here you're just walking everywhere you're going. So I think that contributes.
One thing I want to ask you as well is, do you specifically have any advice for other teachers that maybe in your similar position, especially based off of some of the stuff that you've experienced personally? Do you have a standout piece of advice that you would like to give?
A piece of advice, I would say, um, look, you can try to look for look depending on what your situation is.
Mhm.
If you're prioritizing how much you're enjoying the experience, or if finances are very important for you, totally understand if you just go for the highest paying job that you're offered.
Mhm.
But I think if you want to really enjoy yourself, really something huge is you need to like your work environment. So when you're considering where to work, uh, you know, do as much research into the company that you'd be going into as you can. Um, if you're if it's near you physically, like go into the space, go talk to some of the other teachers who work there, see what their vibe is.
Yeah.
Um, because that's exactly what I did, and I kind of just I ended up choosing the one that I thought would make me feel the best, that had the best, that seemed to have the best kind of work culture. Like people seemed happy, uh, with a high vibe, and everyone chatting with each other, everyone friendly with each other. I think that would be my advice. I think that's something I did really well.
Yeah, that's great advice. It can be tough to, to find something that works for you when you're looking at money, like you're saying, but just going with the vibe and feeling what you really connect with, I think is phenomenal advice. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. You talked a little bit about, at the beginning kind of integrating and that being a lot to do with learning Spanish, but outside of maybe culture, it could have to do with the culture or how you experience things there or in the classroom as well. Is there something that stuck out to you that was like a really big challenge for you personally that you had to overcome?
Hmm. I mean, look, besides the language,
Mhm.
um, not really. I think I don't think people are difficult or rude or closed off here. I think for me, yeah, the biggest challenge was just like developing that level of language to a point where like you're capable of connecting with strangers.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, I can't say much else. Like, people are not people are not cold here. It's a good culture.
Well, I mean, that's an amazing thing in itself that you can go over there and you have been there for 8 months and you haven't really experienced like something that, has knocked you down super hard outside of, learning a language, which is, difficult for anyone, right? But I mean, that's an incredible thing to
Mm.
to hear. And I'm sure actually that's what a lot of people would want, right? Is to be able to go to a new place and not, get knocked down really hard, but be able to experience it to the max while they're there.
Yeah, it's been really good. One thing, uh, I mean, just if we're speaking about experiences with the
Yeah.
public or the locals, is um, you know, I think it's quite well known.
Hmm.
Like pickpocketing is a really big danger in
Okay.
Barcelona. So while you're not in big danger of violent crime, like
Hmm.
you might be in South Africa in some parts, like there's a huge threat of just having something stolen.
Hmm.
So you need to be super vigilant. And I did have like uh yeah a I did have what's the word? Well, anyway, I had a moment on the metro
Right.
with a guy who I think was trying to rob me. He wasn't successful, but yeah, like these things happen
Of
in
course.
Barcelona. That happens. I also had it one time where I was kind of just walking home at night after drinks with my friends, and
Hmm.
this guy approached me like all smiling, like kind of trying to buddy me, and um I I like sarcastically smiled back at him because I
Yeah.
like I know this game like I kind of went like a wow like hey
Yeah.
hey bro like and then like he thought he really did think I was stupid, so he took that invitation and he got closer to me, and then yeah he went for my watch, and
Uh,
then I just shoved him off.
yeah.
And if you pose any kind of resistance, like
Hmm.
generally they'll just drop it.
Yeah.
um yeah.
Yeah, anybody who's I think probably looking to pickpocket is looking for the easiest, way to do it. They
Yeah.
don't want any, resistance, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you were saying earlier when you were on the train and you thought some guy was trying to pickpocket to you as well, like what did you mean? Like he was, getting really close or
Yes, so we stopped at a station,
Mhm.
and the metro car was pretty full, so I had my back to the door that was about to open. So that's one thing. Maybe if you're on the metro, if you can avoid it,
Yeah.
don't be near the door, because that's where you're like a prime victim, because
Oh,
someone can grab and quickly run off, right? And like
yeah.
run out of the station and leave. Um, so that's one thing. Just a piece of advice. Not that you'll definitely be robbed if you're standing by the door, but
Right.
it's just like I think it increases the That's probably what they look for, is someone
Sure.
who's looking vulnerable in the moment, where they can grab and quickly exit, right?
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, the door behind me opened because we had just stopped, and I was speaking English as well with one of my colleagues,
Mm,
and it is true that they like to target tourists more than locals,
mm,
because the locals who maybe are commuters or are regularly on the same line are more likely to recognize the pickpockets, because the pickpockets kind of frequent the metro.
mm.
So they actually, yeah, they tend to kind of, like, look, not always. It happens to locals too. Locals get pickpocketed too, absolutely.
Sure.
But they do like to target uh tourists. So anyway, I was speaking with my colleague and the door opens behind me, and this guy walks right up in front of me, like really close to me, and
Mm.
kind of uh tried to make it seem like he was just trying to leave the metro car. So I try to step out of his way, but he moves with me in front of me,
Uh,
and kind of acts like he's confused, like he's actually really just trying to get past me, or trying to make it seem like that. And he goes, what, what? And you know, and like looking for a moment where he can like reach into my pocket. But I
yeah.
think someone who was behind him like had caught onto him probably even before he approached me, and like
Mm.
pulled him back. And
Wow.
yeah.
That's quite nice. Yeah, saved you quite a bit there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he kind of like cursed at us and ran away. So
Okay. Yeah, you're
yeah,
in the wrong for that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Uh, so I'm sure you did before going over there. I'm sure you did like quite, I mean, maybe you didn't, but I'm sure you did at least like some research and stuff into what life was maybe like over there, some things that you could have expected. But is there anything that is kind of stuck out to you as like an expectation versus reality thing from something that you thought maybe it was gonna be like versus how it actually is when you got there?
Mm, are you looking for? Do you mean something that might have disappointed me, like a high expectation that in reality was worse,
It
or
could
something
be,
that I
yeah,
expected to be bad that was
absolutely.
better?
Absolutely. Anything like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah. Okay. Well, one thing I can say is Barcelona is kind of like it's considered, a coastal city, like a beach city.
Hmm.
People do go to Barcelona for the beach. But one thing, yeah, I think I did mention it earlier, very early in our conversation. There are nice beaches here, but the real nice ones, you have to leave the city. You have to travel a little bit, like an hour in train, or
Okay.
maybe 45 minutes in train, um, to to get to the nice ones. There are
Mm,
beaches here in the city, but they're artificial. They were
mm,
constructed in the 90s for the Olympics, for the tourists. Um, and while it's fine, like they're completely serviceable, you can go to the beach there. They're not as like picturesque or
sure.
as nice really as the ones when you leave the city. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you can still go. Like you can go and have a good time, no problem.
Mhm.
But the beaches that you really want to go to, you'll leave the city a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. And I think you hear that quite often, right? With a lot of places that you go to that are coastal, like because my imagination always is when or my thought process always is when I go to a place that's supposed to be really close to the ocean is that, you're in the city and you're gonna be a 5 minute, bus ride to the best beach
Yeah,
in town, right? But that's usually not the case. It's usually like an hour, 2 hours away
yeah,
when you go to the nice place.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is like that in Cape Town, South Africa, actually.
Oh,
Cape
really?
Town is, I think, is a really special city in that way, where like the city really is like on the beautiful natural beaches. You don't
Right.
you don't leave the city to go to them.
Yeah.
Um, which I think is something really special, something that I didn't realize or quite appreciate
Hmm.
living in South Africa.
Sure.
But like the rest of the world isn't really like that typically, like you say.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of love for your home country as well. Are you missing it quite a bit? Are you feeling some homesickness at all?
Yeah, I think it's natural. I do come from a really nice place. Uh, I had a really nice life too. Lots of good friends, um, and yeah, everything was really good, having a good life. So I think it's very natural that I'd be homesick sometimes and that I would miss it sometimes. Um, but I think I think you'll always experience homesickness when you go to a new place. And one thing that I can say about homesickness is it's not like a linear line. You're not homesick at the start and then it goes away forever. Like you'll have like peaks and valleys of homesickness or feeling like comfortable in this place. The next month you might feel like, oh my God, I want to get out of here. I want to go home. For me it's never really that intense. I'm always like in general, I've always pretty happy here. But
Yeah,
you know, I've had some periods myself where I'm kind of just like longing for some familiar things from home that just aren't here.
sure.
Um, but I always end up it always curls up in a positive way in the end. Yeah.
Yeah. It always comes back around, right?
Yeah.
You yeah, of course, like it's very like you said, it's very common to feel that homesickness and um I think, just knowing, like you said, that you're not going to experience it forever, right? It comes and goes.
Mm.
And really, I'm sure you feel this way as well. The thing that brings you back out of it is finding that new restaurant in your town or doing that new activity that you've been wanting to do or something like that, something to bring you back to where you are, right?
Yes. Yeah, I do think it's like because sometimes even when you haven't lived somewhere for very long, you can kind of feel like, oh, like I know this place
Hmm.
or but no, like there's still so much to explore. You're still a stranger to this place
Yeah.
and you will be for a long time. So, but that's exciting. Like there's still so much to see. You need to remember that it's really fun what you're doing. And also, I think what helps me a lot in those moments is just like focus on connecting with your community here, with your friends here.
Hmm.
I think I find that always like when I do feel like I'm out of place here or I don't belong, that helps me come back.
Do you have, kind of looking more into the future, do you have any big plans to stay around there, or do you think you're kind of going with the flow? What does the future look like for you?
Yeah, at this point, I'm just looking at the year ahead.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking about it's now 2024. I'm thinking about 2025. I think if I'd like to, ideally, I I keep working at the company where I am,
Hmm.
but I'd be teaching full time. Hopefully, we can figure that out. Um, and that's my plan for now. I'm really happy to continue with the teaching. I really like it. It's the most. I was speaking with a friend about it yesterday. It's the most like competent I've felt in my life thus far, which is a really good feeling. It's really good to feel like I'm really good at what I do or
Yeah,
my job, and I like doing it. Um, it's it's really nice to feel that. So I think I need to pursue pursue that and continue with that. So that's the
of
plan.
course. Yeah, yeah, nothing better. I mean, if you found something that's making you happy and you feel like you're on the right path, then yeah, why change it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, John,
yeah, I agree.
I wanted to thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I think a lot of people are going to be really interested in your story, and I was very interested. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. Very nice interview, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.